Am I the a-hole for going no contact with my in-laws after they accused me of cheating on my husband? Edit, I guess I must warn people, it's a long read. The reason there is a lot is for context of their behavior. Also, thanks to those who have wished my son a wonderful future. He is doing amazing. We are so lucky to have him. And he has plenty of people around him who care for him deeply. A few lead-up points for context. My husband and I have been together for 10 years, married for 6. Together, my husband and I have unfortunately struggled with infertility, something common, but it still sucks. We didn't talk much about it, it wasn't anyone's business. But after a long journey of trying, we were finally able to tell our family we were expecting. We had planned it out, to tell them before telling the world. We hosted Thanksgiving, we're in Canada, so this is at the beginning of October. I went and bought decorations, we had food for days. You would have thought I was feeding a small army, but in reality, it was just my husband and I, my dad, my mother-in-law, sister-in-law, her husband, and our nephew. I was more than excited to say the least. It was hard to hold in the news, but I was doing my best to keep it together. Waiting on the turkey, like always, we sat in the living room talking. Out of nowhere, with a serious and almost somber look on her face, my mother-in-law asked if I was pregnant. There was no excitement, just almost an accusation. Moment and reveal, ruined. We tried to salvage the moment, I got excited and my sister-in-law did her best to be excited too. But things kinda weren't going great. We announced on social media on Halloween that we were expecting. Everyone we knew was excited, I told my coworkers, we were over the moon. But my sister-in-law threw a stink that we announced it on social media, because she didn't when she had her son. Why did this matter? Yes, I'm still confused too. Unfortunately, due to some unexpected complications, we lost the baby in the middle of the second trimester, just 3 weeks short of viability, the first couple of days of December. We were absolutely devastated. Giving birth to a stillborn has to be one of the most traumatic things a woman can go through, and my husband was just as traumatized by watching it all unfold. His family didn't bat an eye, they carried on as if nothing happened. His mom even decided that it was a great time to tell us other extended family members were expecting. Salt in the wounds. After Christmas, we decided to get out of the house, take a break from grieving if we could, and went on a short vacation. Turns out, great time to conceive if you're not thinking about life. This time, we waited longer before we announced to family. We used my birthday as an excuse to invite everyone out for dinner, April. Same crowd, plus a really good friend of mine. After we had finished eating, we opened a box with the announcement and my sister-in-law was excited, though, if you knew her, you'd know this was very much a performance for the people around us, not so much a true reaction. My mother-in-law, bitter and somber, and not a single congratulations. Due to the loss of our first, this pregnancy was considered high risk. That meant I was monitored and in the hospital every 2 weeks for scans, blood work, medications, and even an iron transfusion. Our miracle little boy also came with complications of his own, which we decided not to share with anyone. It was something we couldn't change and we would learn how to adapt when he was born. To say that the pregnancy was easy would be a lie. But it was worth it. He is incredible. Not given the option, my in-laws decided they were throwing me a baby shower. I was invited over to my sister-in-law's house to discuss the shower, and give the list of people I'd like to invite plus their addresses. We talked about things that were not going to happen, games that wouldn't be played, and this wasn't because I didn't like them, no, it was things they didn't like. When I began to suggest things I thought would be cute, I got shot down immediately. Who doesn't think baby-sized foods are cute? Mini croissants, donut holes, mini quiches? They had already decided to have those little sandwiches you serve at funerals, of which I cannot eat, because deli meat and pregnancy are not friends. I let them know, and I was promptly told to eat before the shower. There was also a comment made about decorations being a waste of money and it would be better spent on gifts. Suddenly my expectation for this shower was very different. Now think about what you envision a baby shower to be like. The elements you'd expect. Maybe decorations, food, games, now throw it in the garbage. My family was coming from over an hour away to this baby shower. I was raised to feed people, and so I invited them over to my house before the shower for a meal. And I'm really glad I did, sure, it was just pizza, but when we got to the shower, there was a veggie tray and cake. There weren't even sandwiches. Not a decoration in sight besides the disposable tablecloths. The 2 games played weren't even baby shower related, and I wasn't even introduced or announced as the mom-to-be. Was it a baby shower? Was this shower for me? I had convinced my husband to come for the gift opening. I wanted him to see all the wonderful things people had gifted us. And I had expected a little more food and figured he'd want to eat. He was very rudely met with, "Why are you here?" Well, it's his baby too. While opening gifts, we were quiet, appreciating everything, taking the time to look over it all. My mother-in-law yells across the room, "We can't hear you." To which she was told to come closer or turn up her hearing aids, by my husband. She decided to hide in the kitchen for the rest of the time, even after the gifts were done. I thanked everyone for their wonderful gifts, spoiling our baby boy and for sharing the love. Baby boy is so spoiled and so loved, thank you. But that apparently is absolutely not how you thank anyone. For a week after the shower, his mom went silent. No calls, no texts, then we were told we needed to go to her house to talk in person. On arrival, she didn't even acknowledge we were there for a solid 5 minutes while she played on her phone. Then launched into us about how we were ungrateful for what she and her daughter had done, and how dare we not thank them. I wish I could say the arrival of our son had all these little things washed away and it was a happy ending, but oh no, absolutely not, things got worse, as they always do. I was brought in to be induced, despite me not wanting to tell anyone. My husband thought it was a good idea to tell his mom. I posted a set of rules to my Facebook, boundaries if you will, letting people know we didn't want visitors in the hospital, we wanted a few days at home to adjust before visitors came over, that if they were sick not to come, and not to make more work for us as new parents we were figuring things out. This began an absolute hellfire. The abuse and harassment from his mom and sister were unlike anything we could have ever expected. His mom began messaging my family and friends and harassing them because they liked the post. All while I'm in labor. This is when my sister-in-law blocked both my husband and me on Facebook. My son was born at 3:30 a.m. via emergency C-section. A lot of unforeseen complications. Resuscitated, intubated, and brought to the NICU. He was 7 hours old before I even got to see him. He had a lot more complications than any ultrasound could have shown. But our miracle son is an absolute fighter. He wasn't even 24 hours old when he was pulled into a surgery of his own to make sure he could continue to breathe, placing a tracheotomy. Something no one expected or was prepared for. He was moved to a different unit to be cared for closer than the NICU, and I tried my hardest to become as mobile as possible post C-section. In our hospital, when you are in a critical care unit, only certain people can visit. In my son's case, it was just parents. Even if we had children, they weren't fond of them being in there, for obvious reasons. So no one was coming to visit. Because of his extras, things were very touch and go. We were learning so much about everything and things were intense. My husband decided to update his mom on what was going on, explaining what was happening. The one bit of information we had before he was born was that his right arm was missing a bone, and his hand was clubbed. But that was it. After telling her about the surgery, that he was in critical care but currently stable, he decided to give her the lesser of concerns, his arm. Before he could finish, she began to blame me. Said if I had only lost more weight, if I didn't have iron transfusions, but before she could list more things, he told her to stop, and that it was no one's fault. This should have been the end. The end of the relationship we had with her, but it wasn't. It was 10 days before we even got to hold him for the first time. Remember when I said 4 visits in 4 months? Now suddenly we were home and she was inviting herself over weekly. We were constantly busy, appointments both at home and an hour away at the hospital. We didn't even have time to have other people over, and it took forever to get the house cleaned. Our son requires 24/7 eyes-on care. That means nursing through the night or we stay up with him. No sleeping when the baby sleeps. You're awake and alert at all times. Babies are exhausting. Complex babies are even more exhausting. But we'd fold each time she wanted to come over. Always complaining that we were always busy and always had appointments. We know, we're the ones going with him. Finally, the last straw. She'd weaseled her way over, holding our son, she turns to me, and accuses me of cheating right in front of my husband. Mind you, my husband and I haven't been away from each other for nearly 5 months. Not for even an hour. Our son requires us present and within the house just in case there are any emergencies. So I've definitely had all the time in the world to be messing around. When my husband didn't bat an eye, when he didn't turn to me and look at me or begin yelling or even questioning me, I think she was incredibly disappointed. Disappointed she didn't get a reaction out of him, disappointed she couldn't put a wave in our pool. The things in life we deal with on a daily basis with our son, we don't need the extra, but anything to hurt her own son at this point. My husband stood, promptly took our son and ushered her out the door, and by that, I mean she took her sweet time. She called a week later asking about when she could come over next, and I told her she isn't ever. You cannot come into my house and accuse me of cheating on my husband and expect to remain in our lives. This was a week ago. She decided to invite herself over again because we hadn't reached out to her. She was told no, but we got the "I'm on my way" text. To which she was told she was not allowed in the house. Needless to say, she did not come. The reason for this accusation of cheating, his cousin, who apparently has nothing better to do with her life than try to ruin others' lives, decided that it was the best rumor to spread in our family. That we have strangers over at our house while our son is home to fulfill our sexual desires, even though we won't let family come over. She told my husband's sister of our lifestyle when they had run into each other at the mall. The extra cars in the driveway are nurses, occupational therapists, and respiratory therapists. There is no time for us to breathe, let alone get a little crazy. Though for weeks, we were told it was texts that came anonymously to my sister-in-law with these accusations. Not wanting to actually tell us who had started these rumors. More lies. Texts weren't shared, the person isn't anonymous, never was, but they found it was much more important to protect them than their own brother and son. I have made it clear, they are not going to see my son, period. Not after their behavior. My son isn't a charity case or a zoo exhibit. He is a regular kid trying to live his life and he has enough to deal with. He doesn't need stressed out parents with shitty family members. I'm not sure what is the craziest part of this story, but the hardest part was to watch my husband come to terms with the fact that his family only wants to hurt him. And that family isn't what people tell you it is. And just because you're blood related doesn't mean a damn thing. So now, after 10 years, we have closed the book on his family. Ending their relationship and ability to hurt us. Do you think I'm the a-hole? Because I think we're just idiots who let this go as far as it did.